No.
This was...
Okay, listen. Here's how we're gonna... I have a plan. I know how we're gonna do this whole syncing of the encoder and the Facebook. Basically, Ryan, you're the one who's always doing the Facebook, or Courtney, whoever's running the Facebook thing. Basically, I will start the encoder for the show.
All right.
And then whoever's doing the Facebook,
why are we discussing this on
you
air?
press the button
because we have to.
That's what I just did.
But don't talk. But once the Facebook thing's ready to go, you start just do your thing. You have to be the first one to talk.
But now you're documenting it.
Yeah.
So now we can look back at it and make sure that we will have this down.
We will
pat.
not have it down.
We will not have any problems.
I promise you guys, by the way, we need to stick to our new goal of our intro is 5 minutes. That's it. And then we do the show because we are.
Dude, why are you being such a Nazi right now?
Because, man, we've talked about this. We have to structure the show better because right now we're
Can I maybe just
all
point
over the
out
place.
that, yes, we've talked about it, but it's usually you who goes over it?
Look at those accusing fingers.
Goes over it. What does that mean?
Like you don't follow your own rules.
Oh, that's true. Well, I mean, the intro, here's the thing. The biggest thing is just our intro. Our intro is 30 minutes long, and we really need to get...
Is that the biggest thing?
Yeah.
Is it? Really? Really?
It is. We lack structure.
But maybe that's one of our endearing things.
It actually is
about the show.
The least endearing thing about the show.
Is that scientifically proven, crowdsourced information?
Have we done
a
survey of our listeners?
I love how your passion for mediocrity, guys, is incredible.
Who said it's a passion for mediocrity? Who said that this isn't really planned but not planned, but planned but not planned?
This is why we'll never get better.
Cool. So we're how long right now?
We are 2 minutes in. So two things I want to mention. Well, one thing really. Just there is somebody on campus I would love to have as a guest on the show. I saw her just outside.
I saw her too.
She would be great. Yeah, she would be great. She would be great for this episode, but we don't have a guest this episode. But I would love to have her as a guest. She's a nun. She is. I've seen her before. She's a straight up, but she's young. She's 20-something years old, early 20s. But she's a nun.
Empty guest chair.
And she's
just documenting.
I don't know. I just want to know about her. I want to know about.
Well, go.
You're
in PR. You're in marketing. Go introduce yourself and say hi. Would you like to be part of my podcast?
Listen, I'm a guy, and walking up to a girl and saying, "Would you be on my podcast?" I feel creepy.
You literally said
creepy.
Before we started this. You literally said, "I'm just gonna go out there and ask a girl, hey, do you want to be on the show?" And there was a nun for you to ask, and you didn't ask.
It's kind of like a weird sign from above.
It's only creepy if you ask in a weird way.
I don't know about that. I mean,
yeah, you did say I'm gonna ask, and she knows you're not asking because it's a weird sexual thing. She's a nun. She's not into that. So that was the perfect person, and you blew it.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys got on your mind?
Well, Ryan was exaggerating my phone call.
Barely.
Well, actually, I wasn't even making phone calls. I was texting.
She was voice to
text. As we were driving.
Texting
down here.
And yelling at people.
I was not yelling. Who was I yelling
cancel
at?
the croissants. Cancel the croissants.
I didn't say cancel. I said don't forget about the croissants.
Well, same thing.
And I was sending it to my sister to make sure she does it. So yeah, but I wasn't yelling.
You were.
I was not.
Was she swearing?
What is your definition of
swearing? You were
swearing?
talking sternly.
Because
swearing. I didn't say you were swearing.
You have to talk clearly, otherwise it doesn't get your words.
Right.
And
you
then
just talk really pointedly. You got to look them in the eyes. Make fun of their mother a little bit.
Siri, I said goddamn period. Yeah.
Let's go crazy!
I already hate this episode. By the way, Ryan was saying we don't have a guest today. We can really make this episode amazing, and then there's less pressure on us.
Ryan Noosh and Courtney, 100 years.
This is the worst episode. The worst episode.
Way to go into it with a positive attitude.
You came into it, all we don't have a guest. It's gonna suck. I don't have anything to talk about.
Way to bring that
Although
positivity.
also to be fair, there was like weird technical stuff going on and other things. Hang on a second.
Just gotta roll with the punches.
I don't roll with the punches. I just...
Dude, Noosh
strategy
really doesn't...
stuff.
He is
I don't.
very, very bad at rolling with
Yeah.
anything.
I
Really?
mean, my policy is this. Basically just if things
The
are...
world has to work the way he says it works. Otherwise...
that's not how the world
When
works.
things go wrong,
They go
do,
wrong.
do things later. That's my... I mean, do things when things can go right. That's my approach to everything.
How will you ever get anything done?
I think that's why I'm the age I am and still pretty unsuccessful in life. I think that kind of answers that.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So today, on that
Ladies' night.
on that topic, today,
Ladies,
it's
maybe that's
night.
why you're having such an issue.
Yeah,
Savage. Because
I don't think anybody got
Girl.
that joke.
girl problems.
I don't have girl problems.
I know.
I don't even. That's not even a sweat on my brow or a chip on my shoulder. A thorn in my shoe.
Wouldn't it be a thorn in your
A
side?
sticker in my sock.
There you go.
Those are pretty
Those are-
annoying. Those are the worst.
So today's topic is women because, and the reason why
Yeah, we need to
is-
at least say why.
It's women because tomorrow is International A Day Without Women.
Well, it's
Day.
International Women's Day, and then
Okay.
/ it's the International, I think, Day Without Women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least
is
national, if
international.
it is.
It's international.
It's international, yeah.
I mean, the first
So
place
they're-
I heard about it was like Brazil.
Yeah, like
They
it's,
said they were gonna
they,
do
I
that.
think they purposely chose tomorrow to coincide with International Women's
So,
Day.
yeah, if anyone doesn't know what it is, it's a international strike.
Strike
basically.
Day. Well, and if you and
So-
I've read several articles that if you know, because it's not everyone can take off work or walk out or anything like
Right.
that. And if you have kids, obviously you can't strike as a mom because just like here, feed yourself for the day. So there are other ways to still show your support. So one thing I read was that you can wear red tomorrow as a way to show your alignment with the cause.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
that
That's
would
what-
be
that's what
something
the
to do.
Previous DJ said too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah, women strike.
Women's strike,
Guys, you go to
yeah.
work. It's a
Yeah.
normal day.
But guys can still support. They can wear red. So
Wear
that-
red.
Wear red.
But it's
Yeah.
not a day for us to just take off.
No.
Yeah.
Because the point is for you guys to realize that you would be nowhere without us.
We
It's-
would be
it's
nowhere.
half the population, yeah.
Yep.
52%. It's a little bit more.
Over
than
half.
Yeah, over half.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, today we're celebrating
Celebrating.
and talking about ladies.
Yeah, I mean, on that topic, I think it's kind of funny though that we have our approaches to getting stories. We kind of have like our niches.
Yeah.
And my niches tend to be historical. I tend to go into the past. I tend to go into those kinds of stories, and it just kind of hit me that like I found 2 stories I wanted to cover today, and I mean if we are talking about women, but I'm talking about dead women. You know what I mean? Like that's my story.
I'm talking about a dead woman.
Okay.
I'm talking about a dead woman.
My
too.
God.
But how do you become a legend?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
live a legendary life, and then you're probably dead now. But
I mean, I guess when you're talking about history, most people tend to be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
That's true.
Yeah.
Most people ever are dead
Yeah.
Yeah.
in human history.
I guess you could say more people.
There's listen,
Have
there's definitely
lived
more people
who are
dead than
dead.
there is alive now.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
true.
there's 7 billion people alive, but there's been way more people than that.
Well, yeah. Since
a
the
good-
dawn of time.
Good point, man.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got for us today?
Today, I'm going to talk about Sadie the Goat.
I knew you were gonna say something about Sadie, but that was
Yeah.
good. I didn't.
Actually, when I first learned about the story, I first learned about it actually this weekend. Before I even knew that we were talking about this, but as soon as we were like, oh, we're talking about this, I was like, I know what I'm talking about. So I'm surprised that I and you and Courtney, I can't believe I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I think that's the thing for a lot of women because usually women are cut out of history. It's all about the men's.
Even if you're a goat.
Even if you're a goat.
Yeah. All right. So, Sadie the Goat was originally Sadie Farrell. She was raised in the slums of New York in the mid-1800s.
Wait, we are talking about a real goat, right?
No, she's a person.
That's just her nickname.
She's a person
Oh,
with a
dude,
nickname
I
of Sadie
really
the Goat.
thought she was a goat.
I'm
this
not
whole
talking
time.
about a goat. We're talking about women
Oh,
today.
I wish the story was now about a goat.
When you said Sadie the Goat, I just thought, okay, it's about a goat. I mean, like, I thought, we stretched the boundaries of women.
That would be
tight-
really stretching.
Yeah, that would be going.
I'm talking about a
bit.
female goat.
Listen, by the way, that's kind of like a noosh move. I'm the
That
guy
would be a noosh
I'm the
move.
guy who took awards and tried to make it about wards, like psych wards.
Yeah, so if anyone was going to be talking about a real goat, it would have been you. But
Yeah.
that's not the case. So Sadie the Goat started as Sadie Farrell. That's her given name.
Yeah.
She was raised in the slums of New York in the
Can I call her
mid-1800s.
Sadie Agnes Farrell? It just sounds like in
You
that
can
time
call her
period.
Sadie the Goat Farrell.
Okay.
So she grew up mostly hanging out with thieves and other, shitty people.
Oh, okay.
As you do in the slums.
In the slums of mid-1800s. So that set her up real nice to
Oh,
become...
mid 1800s New York. So this is
this
Gangs
is
of New
Gangs
York
of New York.
area.
Actually, what's her face in that movie?
Cameron Diaz character.
No. What was her name? Something Maggie.
Gyllenhaal.
No, not the
Oh.
not the
Oh, no,
actress,
the
the
actress?
character,
Oh.
the person.
Well, here, I'll
she
look
was
it up.
she was also a famous
What you're going to talk
criminal.
about? Oh, okay.
Man. I was gonna write this down and I totally forgot because I don't care about this person.
Hold on, I'm one letter away from finding out. Hellcat Maggie.
Hellcat Maggie. So the character of Hellcat Maggie is a composite of Hellcat Maggie, who was a real person, and Sadie the Goat.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So people, the character didn't get the name Sadie the Goat, but she inspired that character
Okay.
partially.
I wish I can remember the character better so I can be like, that's impressive.
Hellcat Maggie, by the way, the real person. I don't remember if they did this in the movie because I haven't seen the movie in God knows how long.
Right.
Hellcat Maggie was crazy, and she sharpened her teeth and sharpened her nails and used to
Jeez.
Freddy Krueger people.
Oh,
That was her thing.
okay.
Sadie the Goat was
She wanted to
much
fully
funnier.
encompass.
Yeah. So anyway, so she grew up in the slums, mid 1800s, gangs of New York stuff, and she was the most financially successful female criminal of her time. So fuck off, Hellcat Maggie. You might be scary, but you didn't make that money. So she started. Oh man, she started making a name for herself in 1869 by stealing literally everything from lone travelers and especially drunk people leaving bars.
Wait, how did she
And
stole from them?
I mean everything from them, down to their freaking shirts, pants, and shoes. She took everything. So by the time these people were done getting robbed, they were just they were just in their underwear. They had nothing left.
How did she rob them? With their Freddy Kruegers?
No, that's Hellcat Maggie. That's a different person.
that's right.
Don't ever mention her.
Okay.
She does not exist for this
so
podcast.
I'll tell you how. She was a pretty small, thin woman. She wasn't like a big lady, so she
Right.
wasn't physically intimidating anyone. But she had a very specific and
Set of
very
skills.
effective MO. So what she would do is she would get a running start, and she would just fucking headbutt people in the stomach.
That nickname
Then-
makes sense.
Then she had one male accomplice who, once she had done this, he
Billy?
would...
Is he Billy?
God, I hope his name was Billy. No one ever mentioned his name. We'll call him Billy.
Yeah,
though.
dude, call him Billy.
So Billy would then use a slingshot to shoot rocks at people in the head or hit them with a bat.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's,
And he would do this while
Yeah.
they were either doubled over in pain from getting fucking headbutt,
Right.
or really just generally confused about a woman headbutting them in the stomach. So after that happened, they'd be unconscious. They would steal just fucking everything from them. So they'd wake up.
by the way,
drunk
I'm
with a
imagining
headache.
this. I'm imagining this very much in the middle of the street, just broad daylight.
That's exactly where it happened.
Okay.
I mean, she would mostly her main thing was people walking out of bars by themselves, drunk,
Right.
and she would just run, headbutt them in the stomach, knock them out, take all their stuff.
Right.
And this
Hey,
is
that
just
works.
that's how she made a living.
I
I mean,
mean-
they.
I don't really see anything wrong with that MO, honestly.
Oh,
Well, yeah, no. I mean,
I mean,
yeah, no,
you're
at
still
least.
robbing people.
Yeah.
which is
Well, yeah,
kinda
but I
not
mean,
cool, but
it's pretty effective. I mean, if they're
It was.
drunk already, you wouldn't really have to headbutt that hard if they're already pretty
you know
drunk.
what? One thing that I asked myself reading about this was, what if someone's really drunk? I mean, how many times did she headbutt someone and they just threw up on her?
Oh, I mean, no.
Because
I-
that had to have happened.
every single time, I have
Just-
to imagine. I mean, she just washes vomit out of her hair.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
regularly.
you just wash
Yeah.
your hair and then you get all this loot. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's a good trade-off.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Still
it's-
gross, but
It's true. Yeah, she did. She made a decent living doing this.
I remember this. This is the time period, guys, when it was common for people to have piss and shit in their hair because people were always throwing out their waste buckets out the window. So it's just kind of like,
a little bit of vomit.
yeah,
Yeah.
not a
Whatever.
big deal.
Whatever.
It's just
There's worse that's been in her hair.
yeah. All right. So one day, while at the Hole in the Wall bar, that's what it was called. It's
That-
on Dover Street.
Yeah, that is a typical name for
Yeah.
a robber's bar.
It's a bar that she frequently waited outside of and headbutted people. She goaded them there.
I like that verb, goaded.
So she went inside, and she got into an argument with the bouncer there.
Okay.
Now I'm going to tell you about the bouncer. The bouncer was a woman, also,
Okay.
named Gallus Mag. She was 6 feet tall, English, and a beast. Her thing was she would patrol the bar with, like, a billy club, like, around her wrist. And she was known to, beat people with it. And then if they were particularly unruly and the billy club wasn't effective, she would get them in a headlock and bite off their fucking ear. She would just Tyson people.
Jeez.
Often enough that she had, like, a really big jar with alcohol in it where she kept
Oh.
all of the ears. Dude, the 1800s were a crazy time. So, and the jar was labeled Gallus Mag's trophy case. She had, like, a bunch of ears in this thing.
Dude, the kinds of people that were produced in that time period.
It was a crazy time, man, in human
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
So, Gallus Mag, big English lady. Sadie the Goat is Irish, by the way, so they were having some strife at the time.
Okay.
People aren't really sure what started the fight. It's generally believed, though, that
was
Sadie
what?
started it.
Okay.
But it was definitely Gallus Mag who finished it.
Aw.
She beat Sadie with the bat. Sadie kept fighting, as Irish women do. And then, of course, Mag did the old Maggie Tyson thing, bit off an ear, threw it in her case, threw Sadie out. So now Sadie is, disillusioned, one-eared, not really wanting to do her headbutting thing outside that bar anymore.
But that's all she had to live for.
So she was just kind of like hanging out at the docks around there instead. And here's where she saw the Charleston Street Gang unsuccessfully try to board and rob a small ship. They got their ass kicked. They all got,
Turn off.
thrown off the boat, right?
Billy clubbed.
By, just the people on the boat.
I mean, just
They were just...
I mean, listen, back in that
They were
time
an honest
period,
gang trying to make a living, and they were really bad at it.
back in that time period, the cops were also kind of a gang, and also just the civilians. The civilians,
Yeah.
if you're in a group of like
Yeah.
5 people, you're a gang.
If you get 5 people of any group
Yeah.
together, they're like a little gang.
Everybody's a gang back then.
Yeah. So Sadie convinced them after they didn't, she convinced the Charleston Street Gang after they didn't rob this boat
Yeah.
to make her their leader because she was really good at this sort of thing. Headbutting people, anyway. And so that's when she started her career as a successful river pirate. So her and her gang stole a ship bigger than the one that they tried to before. They straight up put a Jolly Roger like skull and crossbones
Yeah.
flag
Nice.
up, and they started raiding other ships like smaller ships, fishing villages, farms, houses, pretty much anything along the Hudson and the Harlem rivers. They just like went up and down, stealing shit. The only thing they avoided were like large cruise ships because they were too big. They weren't
Yeah.
gonna like try to take that on. So she'd been really successful doing this for a while. Like they were really good at stealing stuff and like taking whatever they wanted. And she got really into pirates, guys. Like she started reading about pirates, checking out pirate books at the library. I don't know where she got books
Here's the
back
thing.
then.
She's already kind of there because she lost part of,
She lost an ear.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of the
She's
pirate
got
thing.
she's got a pirate ship now.
Yeah. So
So she got really into pirates, and she started doing things like making unruly gang members literally walk the plank. And she read a book where pirates kidnapped Julius Caesar. I don't know if that actually happened or if that's just like a fictional
probably
thing.
not the pirates we're thinking of, if there were pirates.
No, yeah, it was something else. But anyway, so she and her crew, she convinced them, like, our thing's kidnapping now. So they started just kidnapping people for ransom. Eventually, this led to a bunch of people getting together with the cops, a gang. They became
Yeah.
a counter gang.
Right.
And they ambushed them when they landed one day, killed a bunch of her crew members, but she
So
escaped.
they boarded her ship.
No, they landed somewhere,
Okay.
and they, like, ambushed them.
Yeah.
They were waiting for them.
Gotcha.
So, killed a bunch of her crew members. She escaped. The Charleston Street gang was, like, no more. There were, like, people left, but they all just kind of, like, quit. Sadie survived, and she wasn't really sure what else to do. So, and, you know, by now, she's been a very successful criminal.
Right.
She's
I-
ready,
well, I
to,
mean,
she's
you
ready
know,
to
we
settle
She
down.
doesn't say she ready to
can
retire.
really stretch the definition of successful because she did lose an ear. I mean, she made money, but
She lost, dude. She made a lot of money. I mean, they had like I didn't actually write this in here, but they had like secret caches all over the state, pretty much, where they were keeping all their money. They had like 4 or 5 different fences that they had to use. They were making so much money that they literally couldn't just spend it. They had to hold it in places to make
wow.
it seem more legitimate.
And back then there were no money laundering, so
Yeah. Well,
Huh.
they didn't really steal money so much as they stole stuff that they had to sell through
Yeah.
fences so that they could get money.
I see.
Yeah. So, by now she's sitting on a good amount of money. I mean, most of her gang's dead, so it's not like she has to split it with anyone. And so she went back to her old headbutting grounds. Got a new nickname, a more respectable thing.
Captain Maggie
She was
the
now
Goat?
called Queen of the Waterfront.
Oh, okay.
And
She's been
you know what's
upgraded.
great about mid 1800s era? When you're a gang member or like, you know, you do all these terrible things, when you're done, people still be like, hey, I respect you. You know, I still think you're a pretty cool person. So she's Queen of the Waterfront now, and using her pirate money, she opened a gin mill. So she decided to start making gin.
That works.
So she's living the quiet life.
As quiet as 1800s can get for someone like
Yeah,
that.
that's true. Well, quieter than getting your ear bitten off and
Becoming a pirate.
being a
Being a
pirate
pirate.
and
Yeah.
headbutting people for their money. So she's just making gin, living her life, and she hears that the Hole in the Wall bar, where she got her ear taken off,
Oh, old Gallus Mag.
old Gallus Mag's bar, is getting shut down. It was getting shut down because 7 people were murdered there in the span of 2 months, and the cops and pretty much all the citizens were like, you know what, this place is trash. We got to get rid of it. We got to close it down.
Only because of those murders.
I mean, 7 people
That
died
is-
there in
that
2
is a
months.
lot.
That's a lot.
But
Yeah.
not the fact that she's been biting ears off of patrons.
That's just normal
You know?
bouncer
Yeah,
activity.
that's-
That's what you
I
do as a
guess,
bouncer.
but, you know.
So
I remember this. Over the course of time, philosophical theory about how to do certain kinds of jobs change. You know, the world of
It's true.
marketing changed in a span of the last 100 years. So the world of bouncing was very different.
I mean, they used to
At
cut
that time.
people's hands off for trying to steal and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
the world's evolved. I guess it's not as exciting.
You know, man,
But
what
it's
they
evolved.
say the world's not as big as it used to be.
Yeah, it
No-
is
no,
true.
man.
There's no more river pirates.
Dude, you're supposed to say to that when somebody says to you, "The world ain't as big as it used to be." You're supposed to say, "Nah, mate, world's still the same, just less in it."
Just less in it.
Yeah,
Is
Cap-
that a reference to
Captain Jack said that. That's what. That's
Oh,
Oh.
that was a good reference too. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a pirate.
yeah, he is.
Well,
That's why I said it.
I didn't. Yeah,
Didn't catch that one.
I didn't catch it. No. Anyway, so yeah, the hole in the wall is getting shut down. So Sadie hears about this, and she goes there one last time before it closes. And her and Mag squash their beef, and Mag gives her her ear back. And this is the last
Yeah.
thing I got to say about it. She wore her ear in a locket around her neck for the rest of her life. Just making
I mean-
gin, living her life with her ear in a locket, and that was.
I'm not gonna lie. I would probably
Sadie
do
the
something
Goat.
similar only because of the fact, dude, that if my limb of some kind of limb, something that's been a part of me
Some
since I
appendage.
was that I've
Well,
had since I was
that's-
born.
That's been a part of you literally your whole
Yeah.
life.
I don't know if I could look if I lost my thumb, I don't know how my right thumb would say goodbye to my left thumb. Like, say goodbye to your brother. Like, I don't know how to deal with that. So I would just have to keep it with me because I don't want to have to separate
Keep
them.
it in your pocket so it can touch it. Still.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's so weird to me to say goodbye. I mean, actually,
Yeah.
some of my stories kind of relate to this kind of thing, so it's kind of cool. But, by the way, I really would have wished if the story would have ended with Gallus Mag disillusioned, the bars being shut down, and the very last thing that happened on the last day of the bar where she got headbutted.
That would have been good.
Dude, I really hope she gave her a good headbutt during the fight or after. Thanks for the ear.
Dude, you know the funniest thing is, I mean, This is I don't know if you guys will get the reference, but are you guys familiar with the Spider-Man villain Hammerhead?
No.
His whole thing is he got.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Well, kind of. I mean, but what he did is he made his skull made of like metal, the same metal as like Wolverine's metal, and he just does the Maggie the Goat thing. He just runs at walls and runs at people.
Maybe Maggie the Goat inspired that character.
Yeah, dude. Maggie the Goat is like a. I mean, yeah, she was a criminal, but I really respect her methods. Like that was.
You have to respect the audacity. That's what it is. It's just like.
Also, who fucking gets that idea? Like, who's just hanging out with their friend and like, man, we gotta make some money. We're poor. We need to start robbing people. What if I just fucking? Because she's. You know what? It's actually pretty smart because she was like a smallish woman.
Yeah,
What's she gonna do?
She's using her assets.
She's using her head. Literally.
Yeah, well, that's true.
She's like, what am I gonna? What do I have available?
I
to me?
bet somebody told her to use her head, and she's like, "That's a good idea."
Yeah, she took
She's
him
like,
literally.
yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah.
So, Sadie
wow.
the Goat.
Nice.
So-
Very good.
and also, I'm impressed by her for a couple other reasons. One, I mean, pirates weren't really doing the pirate thing so much at this stage of the game.
Especially not upstate New York.
Not in New York.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
not in upstate New York. And she was. I mean, I was like, man, she's like got
You
all.
can say she's
got
almost
like.
kind of like an entrepreneur.
She was. She had
you
like
know?
all these fences. She had like this whole
Yeah.
Breaking Bad operation going on with her money. It was,
Yeah.
And she
Pretty
had
cool.
a little apprentice named Billy.
And then afterwards, she was like, you know what? I got lucky. I got out when I did. Let's just start making gin. Let's be an honest. Let's get into an honest profession.
I mean, on the whole Breaking Bad reference, I feel like the first fight between her and Gallus Mag was kind of like the whole Walt goes into the gang hangout and blows it up with that whole. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, that
Billy
is.
Billy is just saying like, "Yeah, bitch."
Yeah, bitch. I'm glad that we turned them into Walter White
I think they kind of
and
are.
Jesse.
All right, so my story is historical. It's definitely more of a like, wow, that's interesting, you know. It's my second story, by the way, that kind of has some similarities to some stuff from yours of what we referenced. But, in any case, this is the story, guys, of the Le Connu de la Seine. Are you guys familiar with that term or that?
Yeah,
No?
definitely.
Oh, okay, I mean Ryan.
No.
Ryan's. Okay, well, so I want to tell you the story. Okay, so this story, guys, begins in the 1920s. Okay, I want you to imagine this: the beautiful 1920s Paris, right? Midnight in Paris
Yeah.
style, right?
Cool.
It's the heyday. You've got freaking what's his name? Salvador Dali. Just
Dali, yeah.
Dali. Walking the streets. You've got what's his face? Old Man in the River. What's that dude's name again? I forgot. Hemingway. Hemingway's doing his thing.
Ernest motherfucking Hemingway.
The Fitzgeralds are partying in Paris. I mean, it's like the heyday, right?
He had courage and strength, and he did not fear death. And then he died, as all men do.
So, it's the 1920s. An elderly woman walks along the streets of Paris. It's her first visit. She's from the countryside. She's never been to the big city.
Of France.
Of France. So she's from the countryside of France. She's never been to the big city. And, so she's old. I mean, she's probably like, I want to say, let's say in her 60s, okay? Like 60s, mid to late. So she's walking along the street. Along a particular street, she walks by a series of shops and sees something that freezes her in her tracks. In the shop window of a particular novelty mask shop was her face. And yes, she stopped, frozen in her
There's
tracks.
a mask of her.
There's a mask of her face in the shop window.
That's pretty creepy.
But let's be more specific. What she actually saw was her face from 50 years ago. So it's not her elderly face.
You know what I really thought you were about to say?
Was her reflection?
What she actually saw was her reflection.
That's what I
She's
thought
an
too.
idiot.
She'd never seen
Never
a mirror
been to the
before.
city.
Well, she's a pumpkin, so maybe she has.
So it was her face from 50 years ago.
It's her face. So, I mean, we're talking about, like, teenage years. Her
Okay.
face from when she was a teenager
That's creepy.
is a mask on the shop window. And by the way, I need to point out, when I say mask, I really don't mean masks as we know them, like rubber masks or anything like that. These are almost like clay masks,
Yeah.
and they're not just frontal masks. They tend to be almost like a kind that you put over your head, if that makes sense, you know? But they weren't rubber. Like, they're kind of... Here's the thing. These masks are not meant to be worn. And I'll explain all that later. But these are basically full head masks with like a neck and everything. Okay, that's just what you need to know. So
Almost like a bust.
yeah, like a bust. That's a good example. A clay bust. Okay, so it was her face from 50 years ago, and she was stunned and kind of scared a little bit from seeing that. The face, just I'll show you a picture of it after, but the face looks serene with its eyes closed, but there's kind of this slight knowing smile just in the corner of her.
You have a picture of the mask and of her face?
I do, and I'll show you, but not right now. And it's kind of curled a little bit. The right corner is kind of curled, like a little knowing smile.
Holy shit.
What? What?
Nothing. Did she really think, is she like, oh my God, I look like Mona Lisa? Is that what's about to happen?
Mona Lisa did come into my mind. Like she had the Mona Lisa smile.
I know it's not her because it's
Right.
the 1920s. But
Right,
I mean,
Mona
had she
Lisa's-
just never seen it and then she saw like this thing that looks like Mona Lisa and she's, oh, it's me.
No, that's not
Okay.
the story at all.
You were just
It is-
describing the Mona Lisa smile.
But that is a
That's
Mona
why.
Lisa smile, yeah. That is her face, though. I mean, it is definitely her
her
face.
face.
Her teenage face, yes. So the woman looks further into this whole story to find out what happened and how did they get her face, as people do, right,
Yeah.
when that happens. What she
Not that
just
it's happened all that often.
right.
She wanted to find out who
That's not a
tagged her on
thing in
Facebook.
everyone's... Yeah.
Right. Dude, basically, there's an example, guys, of
Facebook
like...
means something totally different right now.
Yeah, right.
There's an example, guys, of kind of like that whole thing where, you're a pretty girl, you got like a Facebook page or a Twitter, somebody steals your
got
picture and
that
starts
Instagram.
catfishing people,
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's kind of like the earliest version of that. So what she discovers, though, when she looks into it, is this face is famous. Like, everybody knows that face. In fact,
Do we know that face?
you do, actually. That's the thing. You know it and you don't even realize you know it. That's the thing about the story. So the wealthy people in Paris, and actually not just Paris, all over France, all over Europe, have this face, this mask. They hang it on their walls. They put it in their mantelpieces. It's basically, they use it as a sort of like a morbid, gothic sort of decoration. Because there's something kind of creepy about that face, the serene, kind of knowing smile on it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a full-headed bust, basically, mask.
I'm really
they
trying
hang
to think
it
of
on the wall.
what it is. That's weird.
Yeah, and so the wealthy have, like, all over Paris, all over Europe. This is a famous face. Everybody knows it. So that's why when she asks, people are like, do you know what that face is? And they're like, yeah, of course. It's La Connu de la Seine. Like, that's the name of the face. It's La Connu de la Seine, which means unknown woman of the Seine. The Seine River, of course, is the river, the big river that runs through Paris, right? So the unknown woman of the Seine. So here's what you need to know. There's this thing from ancient times, but it's very popular in the 1800s, and it kind of got less popular, over time. It's called death masks.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So when a person dies, it's common to use clay to create a mask of the person's face in order to preserve the image of the face, because they didn't have photography back then. So that was the only way to remember what that person looked like at their death. And these masks, what's the thing about them is they're
Do you
reproducible.
think people would make death masks like... I know if I was going to make a death mask, I'd be like, let me get it in my 30s. Like, I don't want to wait till I'm old and
Right.
remember me like this.
Yeah, not like that, like this.
I mean, if that's the case, I gotta do it soon.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I gotta go get my death mask done.
Yeah. Here, and these death masks, they're reproducible and they're famous because they make death masks of like Napoleon, Robespierre, Abe Lincoln. Like, all these famous people have death masks, and people buy them and just use them as decorations, right?
Dude, by the way, what a weird human tradition. I'm just decorating my house with the faces of the dead. Like, that's fucking weird. Why do we do stuff like that?
Because we had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
We were really bored.
Like, I get loved ones.
It was a simpler time back
Loved
then.
ones make
I mean-
sense. I don't want to forget the face of my mother or,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, you've never fucking met Abe Lincoln. What do you want him in your house for?
I mean, by the way, I just remembered that back then, like, decoration and like style was
That was really
weird.
there.
It was intensely weird. Like, you went from like things like Gothic to like freaking Rococo, where like the house was a cake. Like, basically, guys, let's make the house a cake.
Well, I mean, all the way up until, I want to say, like, the 70s, like, decoration was weird. But I feel like it's probably part of it was that, what else did we have going on? Other than, like, hey, I got a house now. I mean, I'm just sitting in here all the time. I might as well do some crazy shit to it,
Okay, so let's jump back in time a little bit, okay? So we're in the 1920s right now.
Okay.
So we're going to jump back in time to 1880,
Oh.
right? Let's go back
So
50 years.
We're way before this lady was born now.
No, 1880s, she's in her teens, right? 1920s,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
60-something.
Gotcha.
Go back 50
Yeah,
years,
50
1880s.
years.
So she's like in her teens. So sometime in 1880, there were 2 twin girls from the countryside in France. They were not beautiful, but they had this innocent, pleasant face. Like, they were well liked because, you know, you could say symmetrical face, and they were really like just innocent looking girls, right? They were very cute. At the age of 16, one of the twins left the countryside to find work in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's really just popping into my head right now?
Yeah.
Phoebe, when she finds out that her twin
right.
sister Ursula is
in
using
porn.
her name as porn.
Phoebe Buffet, Vampire Lair. Remember that? Vampire
remember that.
Lair.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the joke was she's Phoebe, Phoebe,
Yeah.
but it's Ursula,
Yeah.
goes to the vampire to like stake the vampire, and the vampire's like, "Oh no, will you be sticking that stake into my dark places?" And Ursula says, "I was hoping it'd be the other way around."
Yeah, oh my God.
I also just like when she's in the coffee shop and guys are looking at her, like trying to figure out, and she just yells, "Porn! You know me from porn!"
Okay,
So continue.
twin
So
girls.
one of them went to Paris to do porn.
One time. I mean, you know what?
Went to
honestly,
go dance at the Moulin Rouge.
Listen, I hate to say this, but this is kind of a fact of life about humanity and the depravity of humanity. Anytime a girl from the country goes to the city, at some point she'll get stuck doing some porn or
Yeah.
something a little shady. Because that's what sick people in the city do to country girls, you know?
Take away their innocence.
Yeah. Especially the ones with the innocent faces like these guys.
Yep.
So, okay. Basically, so at the age of 16, goes to the city to work in porn. She met a man and she fell in love with him.
Oh God, of course.
Yeah. She fell in love with him, but the affair was ended by the man, and there is rumor that she was pregnant and abandoned.
Okay.
So the girl stood on a bridge with the
Oh,
fast-moving waters of the Seine River below her. They say the bridge was somewhere near the Louvre Museum, the famous Louvre. And she jumped in, and she drowned, and her body is found in the river the next day. At the morgue, and this is something you need to know about morgues in the 1800s. So the thing is, they didn't have, I mean, remember this, 1800s, they didn't really have investigative, like, police work.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the 1800s, police investigation was, okay, gather up all the evidence in a sack, let's take it to the station, and let's look at it. They didn't think about crime scene investigation. They didn't think about preserving the
Yeah,
evidence.
this is before all
Actually, the first time they started thinking about that was when
Jack the Ripper.
and also when Edgar Allan Poe wrote Murders at the Rue Morgue, because in that story the character uses like environmental investigation. That's the first time they've shown that. So those events are what they really started the whole crime scene investigation thing. But this, no. So at that time, at the morgue, what they did was they didn't have like police having you identify the body in privacy. What they did was the morgues had glass cases, and anybody who died that day or that week, they'd put them
They
in these
just
glass
stick them
cases.
in there. Hey, you know this person?
And the morgue just open doors. People would just walk in and just see if anybody they know is dead.
It's kind of sad.
And
You know what is also sad about that is it's like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna go go drinking with my friends, and then your son doesn't come home for 2
then you have
days.
to
So
go
you're
to
like,
the morgue
let's
and
go
do
to the morgue and
The
see if
morgue
he's
open
there.
house. Let's go
Right.
look at glass cases.
a lot of people died kind of normally in the 1800s. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, have you seen him? No.
let's
Better
go.
check the morgue.
Literally go check the morgue.
That's like when your dog runs away and you call the pound to see if he's there.
We gotta go.
Only
We're
worse
gonna miss
because
the
he's
open
dead.
house. It's opening in 10
The
minutes.
morgue's closing in 10 minutes. Hurry up.
So, right. A lot of people died. So people would come to see who died, see if they recognize anybody. And everybody, the people who just went to just see if somebody else they knew died. But remember this. There's people who nobody they knew died.
I would
They
say
just
there
went.
had to
They
be
just went to
spectators.
go-
They just went to
There
see
had
the
to be
dead.
spectators.
Look at
Right.
dead people and
Right.
This is what they like to do.
gross.
So all the people who went, the first day she was being shown, became captivated by the face of this mysterious woman. And there were lines to see her because they were so enraptured by the fact, like I said, she's not beautiful, but her face was innocent. It was very symmetrical. And she had this look. Her eyes were closed. And there was a slight smile on her face. I wonder if at this time it'd be appropriate for me to show you her face.
Yeah, it would.
I'm gonna fold this so you can't see the
Oh my
words.
Gosh, you don't.
Yeah, there you go. Take a look. That's what she looked like at her death, and what her mask looks like. What do you think?
This black and white picture's the mask?
That's a replica of her face, but that's an actual. Here's the thing. That's not like a stylized mask like the one on the the other one. Yeah, that's what her actual like clay mask looked like.
And for our listeners, we'll post this up later.
Yeah,
so
we'll post that up for you. But I mean, what do you think? What do you think, Ryan, of her?
I wouldn't stand in line to see her dead face.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
I wouldn't decorate my house with it.
And I wouldn't put that in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, not on my
But-
mantle, but I mean, I can.
Pre-internet, pre-entertainment, people just like, huh?
I mean, I
She has
can
a nice
see why.
face.
She does have a nice face. She does
I
look
think
at peace.
Makeup wasn't common back then, so
Yeah.
Beauty wasn't exactly a high form of standard, you could say.
Yeah.
But I think
I
that
will say
I
will say that I think she is kind of smiling, and that's kind of that would be weird if you're like looking at all these dead people, their faces are all warped, or they look like
It's
like
like
they're
she knew
dead,
something at the time
and
of her
she's
death.
just like,
And dude, here's the thing. Also, let me say two things. One, it is creepy to have a realistic looking face
also
like that
yeah,
one
man,
on that
like
wall.
keep it looking like a statue. This
Yeah.
lady with she colored her hair and her skin. That's
Other thing is this though. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm looking at her face and I can see that her face. There's an attractiveness to her face. Like for a 16-year-old girl, I can say that there's some. No, I mean when she's young. Oh my gosh, I don't mean it like that.
well, I mean, hey man,
I mean
Whatever
I'm saying,
floats your boat.
no, not
No.
whatever, because that's
No,
illegal.
I'm saying for a 16-year-old girl
Not
at
back
that
then.
time, I can see that there's beauty. Like, there's a kind of beauty in her face, right? So okay, back to the topic. So people would line up to see this girl, right, in a glass case. Writers wrote poetry and verse about her face. German writer Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "The face of the young drowned woman was beautiful because it smiled so deceptively as though it knew." French philosopher Maurice Blanquat said, "An adolescent with closed eyes, but enlivened by a smile, so relaxed, so rich, that one may be led to believe that she died in a moment of extreme happiness." And French writer Albert Camus described her as having the smile of a drowned Mona Lisa. And by the way, these writers didn't just write about her at the time. They wrote about her like 20, 30, 40 years after her death and after the popularity of this mask.
So they were just like looking at their mantle and they're like, "Oh, I should write about this girl," because they probably had that.
Yeah, knowing these kinds of people, yeah. But here's the thing: despite the many hundreds of people who came to see her during that week, no one could identify her. Nobody knew who she was. The morgue owner finally decided to make a death mask of her face. And by the way, none of the stories I can find, nobody could ever say what happened to her body after that. Like, we don't know. So the mask makers, eventually, the Parisian mask makers got a hold of that death mask, and they started making replicas of her face. And they hung it alongside famous faces like Abe Lincoln and Napoleon and everybody else. Like, they just hung it up on the walls, and it spread like wildfire. People across France, Europe, they loved this face because they enjoyed the morbid Gothic beauty of it. It spread all over Europe. It actually, this fact is also really surprising. An entire generation of German girls modeled their looks based on this face. I'm not joking.
Wow.
The standard of beauty in Germany was drowned French girl for like 10 years.
That's
It was made popular by German actress Elizabeth Bergner, and you can kind of see a little bit of that on that actress's face, like when she was a German. But then again, German film at that time.
Stopped.
German film at that time was that whole impressionism style of filmmaking, so it was kind of muted tones and things like that. So anyway, back to the 1920s. That's when the older woman, once she discovered all this, realized that this face was the face of her sister, who she hadn't seen in 50 years. So now she finally knew what happened to her sister. And she knows she drowned, shortly after she left, the village or whatever. So she drowned when she was 16. Now, it's not over yet. Let's skip ahead to the 1950s.
Okay.
Long after this woman's dead, long after the fad of the Le Connu de la Seine passed, right? So there's a man, a famous toy maker in Norway named Asmund Lerdahl. We're going like far away.
Yeah.
Asmund Lerdahl has a son named Tor. as he would be named.
Yeah.
So Tor was 2 years old when he nearly drowned in the ocean. He was in the ocean and he drowned.
Nearly.
Yeah, his coat caught a pocket of air and he happened to float a little bit, just enough for Asmund.
Why are you in the ocean in a coat? Well, I mean, luckily you were, I guess.
Yeah.
Tor.
Asmund, that's how Asmund spotted his son and he fished him out. And here's the thing, Asmund didn't know CPR. Actually, there was no CPR.
Yeah.
It didn't exist back then. But he managed to save Tor anyway. But this affected Asmund really badly. Like, he was kind of a little, like, I don't want to say traumatized, but he was affected deeply by the near loss of his son, obviously, right? So not long after, he's approached by Dr. Peter Safar, an Austrian physician. By the way, I hope at this point you guys were like, oh man, how is this tying into this whole thing?
I think I might have a guess, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Let's see if it pans
You
out.
have a guess?
A guess.
Well, shouldn't we hear the guess to see?
No,
if
I want to. I'll trust your judgment. I don't want her
right.
to say it yet because
Okay.
she might be right if she knows where this is going. So, Dr. Peter Safar, Austrian physician, he's been researching a new technique to save people who are drowning. He calls it cardiopulmonary resuscitation or mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So, Dr. Safar asked the famous toy maker if he can make a life-size doll that people can practice mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on. Asmund agrees because of the near drowning of his son.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, at that time, it was the very idea of putting your mouth on somebody who might be kind of dead is outrageous.
Yeah,
And-
right. Who might be who might be kind of dead.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Asmund knew this. Regardless of the frame of the body, like the actual frame, the doll's face needs to be female. And the reason why is because people would be a little bit unnerved if it was like a masculine face.
Yeah.
And also if it wasn't an attractive face. So he needed a face that was demure and innocent. And it was then that Asmund remembered his childhood. Because once he walked into his father's study and he found a face hanging on the wall. And that face was of the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen back then. And he would stare at it often. By the way, at this point in the story, do you remember, Ryan, you don't know this reference, but you remember that Durarara? I made you watch that show a long time ago? How people got obsessed with the headless woman?
Yeah.
That kind of reminded me of that. Like, just this guy staring at this head on the wall.
So that's the starting of a serial killer right there.
Well, he's
Yeah.
a toy maker, so hopefully
No, I know,
it's a...
but
So I
hopefully it
think I
doesn't-
know where this.
Yeah, was that where you thought it was
Yeah.
going to go? Most importantly, he remembered the story of the mask and of the drowned woman. And he knew that the face on the doll that he was going to create had to be the face of Le Connu de la Seine. It just
Yeah.
made sense to him. So that's the thing. The dolls that are used to practice mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, the face, it's a little bit different
do
now.
they still use that face?
They still use the face. However, it's not the exact face. They've kind of changed it a little bit over
Okay.
the years, right? But the basic model of it is
Yeah.
absolutely. All the
That's
dolls
crazy.
use the face of Le Connu de la Seine. It's actually referred to as the most kissed face in the world. And
Aw.
in this, and actually, here's what I really like though. In this strange, kind of beautiful way, everyone who practices mouth-to-mouth resuscitation is desperately trying to
is trying
save
to
this girl.
save
Like
The girl who drowned
yeah.
in the 1800s. Wow, that's
I mean,
That's poetic.
there's something really
That is
beautiful and
poetic.
poetic about that. Like, we're all trying to save her. That's all we're trying to do.
She lives
But-
on.
Yeah.
Kind of.
making
In
out
her
with
own way.
everyone. Well, actually, mouth to mouth isn't really
It's not making
taught
it.
anymore.
Oh, it's not. What is?
Just CPR.
Oh, just
But-
the chest compressions.
Oh, so you don't blow anymore. Oh, okay.
I mean, that's pretty recent, isn't it? I don't
I think so, yeah, because
because I don't. I think they found like that doesn't actually.
because you mainly just need to get the heart pumping to get because you don't want oxygen to be deprived from the brain because that's what can cause more damage than that anything else. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Everyone's trying to. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, no, that I like that.
yeah. Le Connu de la Seine. So, Courtney.
Okay, so I will be talking about Nancy the White Mouse Wake.
Man, you guys got some cool
Animals.
ass. You guys got some cool ass
Animal
names.
names.
So I'll just give you some background of her, and then we'll get to the Nancy the white mouse part.
Okay.
The white mouse makes her sound like she's like a spy or something.
Yeah.
So her full name is, well, at least by the time that she died, but her name is Nancy Grace Augusta Wake. She was born in New Zealand and then moved to North Sydney when she was little. She ran away from home at 16 and she found work.
A lot of kids doing that at that time.
When was this?
Let me go up. So she was born in 1912.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
Around the same
1914,
time.
she moved to Australia and lived in North Sydney. And then, when she was 16, she ran away. She found work as a nurse. At some point...
Already much more respectable than Sadie the Goat.
And at that time, it was the thing about that time period is like the time period of our grandfathers and most likely our great grandfathers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's at a time when a child could run away from home
And survive.
become a boxer, become
Yeah.
a nurse. Actually, my grandfather, my father's father, he ran away from his village in Sri Lanka to go to Colombo, and he got he slept in a railway car, and he was found a few days the railway worker that worked there saw how he was just sleeping in railway car, so he invited him to come live with him, and he became
I know
like
the story.
the great grandfather. But he became what my grandfather would refer to as his father, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I just thought, he's a kid who ran away from home at 12 years old, lived in rail cars, and he became a celebrated actor and director in Sri Lanka.
Nice.
Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was possible back then.
That's kind of similar to my dad's father. He ran away from his village in India.
Okay.
And he, from what I understand, is mainly because he didn't want to be part of the arranged marriage thing.
Okay.
And he was part of the Brahmin class.
The highest class.
The highest class. And within that class, the highest of that.
Damn.
But he ran away. He joined the Royal Air Force. And he broke, I think, both his legs at some point from as a paratrooper with the RAF.
Who's your father?
My grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, continued on with the Indian Army once they gained independence, and he retired as a brigadier general
Yeah.
with the Indian Army.
Look at all
So
of us with famous relatives. Mine are way before your guys's, but equally bad.
And actually, you know
Yes.
what? Kudos to us, because I think that means all of our families kind of have some noble blood in them. You've got, the Brahmin class, the
Yep.
highest Indian caste.
I
come
tell
from-
people I'm an Indian princess.
Yeah. You should. You are.
Yeah,
You're
yes,
from the bloodline.
yeah.
I mean, Brahmin class is the
Yeah.
highest class. Kumar Singh has a noble house in Sri Lanka in ancient times, so not royalty, but it's like nobility. And you've got.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually tell my. I don't even know if you know this. My great something grandfather was like a Duke of Wales.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're like,
and then he
love
eloped with
this.
his prostitute mistress. And that's where I came from.
Ryan, by the way, I don't know why, but I imagine you. I mean, because it's your aunt, so I just imagine you doing that. Like, I don't want this. I want her.
Forget royalty.
well, there's two things I'll share right now. One thing is, did you
She's
guys ever
my
watch
main
the
bitch.
show Frasier?
Yeah.
So there's that one episode where Martin wants to sell this bear thing that he has, and it's been passed down in their family for generations, and and then he goes onto the Antiques Roadshow and he finds out it belongs to the Romanovs and everything. And so Frasier and Niall's like, oh my God, we're part of the Romanovs. We're, blah, blah. They do the whole history. Somebody from the Russian embassy comes by and they're like, yeah, this was stolen from the Romanovs by a chambermaid who was supposed to help them escape, but instead she went off with the loot and ran away. That is your grandmother. But the other thing I'll tell you guys, I don't know if it'll blow your mind or not, just kind of on this whole thing. So my mom's grandfather, so my great grandfather, very much into lineage and everything, and so he did a whole family tree thing, and this was before computers, so he went to libraries, he did full research and all of that. He traced the full family. I mean, who knows how accurate it is, but I tell people because I think it's funny and it's cool. But he traced it all the way back to Charlemagne. So
Wow.
supposedly I'm related to Charlemagne, which means I'm related to Jesus.
Is
saying.
Charlemagne related to Jesus?
Yeah, if you follow, there's a whole thing, but Jesus' bloodline leads to Charlemagne.
Huh.
So,
His brothers and sisters, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
so
Huh. Wow.
I'm related to Jesus. Just saying.
Cool.
And if you follow the theory behind Da Vinci Code, you're looking at the Holy Grail. Just saying.
Wow.
That's a good pickup line. You should.
Holy Grail right here. Anyway, let's get back to the
Right.
White Mouse. So So she ran away. She found work as a nurse. At some point, an aunt died, and she got 200 pounds. It was part of an inheritance.
Hold on. So, an aunt. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
our
Gotcha.
aunt.
No,
yeah.
gotcha. Here's the thing: we're talking about animals. This whole like. Okay, wait.
I saw the wheels turning. I was like,
where'd the ant come from?
I was like, he really thinks she's talking about a fucking insect right now.
An aunt came into her kitchen and gave her 200 pounds.
It died.
Here's your inheritance, ma'am.
The richest ant in the world.
I mean, again, going back to the thing though of that time, I mean, it's just you could have as well for then is a lot, but to us, like 200 pounds, that's nothing. But off of that, she was able to go to New York and then to London. And then once she was there, she trained herself as a journalist and worked with Hearst newspapers over in Europe.
Man, those were also the days when you can just decide I'm a journalist now.
Exactly.
And people are like, yes, you are. Come work for the newspaper. And over here, they're like, sorry, you don't have a 4-year degree and you also don't have 6 years of experience. So
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
No, I mean,
Go
back
be an
then
intern.
you could really be anything you wanted. You know, you could just do whatever.
Everyone wants that safe bet now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Actually, I'm learning about the actual history and process of how did employee interviews begin, or like how did the process of hiring actually like evolve. And in the beginning, it was simply just skills. Like the way they'd hire people for like a jeans factory is you've got 10 minutes. Let's see how many jeans you can make, and that's it. Whoever makes the most jeans gets the job.
Man,
Well,
yeah.
I can say my mom's dad, I think he dropped out like in what would be considered like 5th grade or 6th grade or something. And he became a very successful graphic artist. And he just basically went to people and said,
I drew this.
hire me for this, hire me for a little bit of time. Let me prove myself. And if it's good, I'll stay on. And if not, whatever. And he went on to do, he even designed like Frank Sinatra's letterheads. And he did very famous movie album covers for like Dean Martin and other movie posters and stuff
No
like that.
one is allowed to talk shit about millennials not being successful because we can't do that.
Yeah.
We get like 3 background checks.
Yep.
Can't even lie in your fucking resume anymore. Anyway,
Okay, so
so she's in London.
she's in London. Eventually, she goes over to France. In 1937, she married a French industrialist. She was living in Marseille when Germany invaded Paris. So after the fall of France in 1940, she became a courier in the French resistance and later joined an escape network. And so it was because she was able to get away from the Gestapo, they weren't able to capture her, she became known as the White Mouse. Okay?
Okay.
And she caused so much problems, working with the French resistance and everything like that, that actually the Gestapo put a 5 million franc hit on her.
Reward? Oh,
Yeah.
man.
To capture her, and they would award that much. So she was doing all that, and then she was the most wanted person. She did have to at some point that their network was betrayed, and so she was going to leave Marseille. Her husband stayed behind. Unfortunately he was later captured and tortured because they wanted to find out where she was.
Right.
And he wouldn't give that up. So but she didn't find that out
By the
until
way,
what
they were on a mouse hunt.
they were on a mouse hunt.
Wait, what was her name?
The White Mouse.
No, not the White Mouse. Like her actual name.
Nancy
Oh, okay.
Nancy Wake. Yeah.
Go on.
But she unfortunately didn't find out that her husband died until I believe it was like much after the war had already finished. Because communication back then was hard. One thing that made me
He's all texting her. They got me, LOL.
oh man. One thing that made me laugh, and I'm like, once I read this, I'm like, yeah, I think I want to do my story on her. She was describing her tactics of how she would get around the Gestapo and other like German checkpoints and stuff. So this is a quote from her. A little powder and a little drink on the way, and I'd pass their German posts and wink and say, "Do you want to search me?" God, what a flirtatious little bastard I was. So
when she said powder and a drink, I thought she was doing cocaine. I thought she was like, take a shot.
it could
Let's do this.
It could be a little bit of the powder on the nose and a little bit of
Powder
cocaine
on
too.
and in the nose.
On and in. You never know. So she fled Marseille, and then she eventually reached Britain, and there she joined the special operation. She joined special operations as an executive there. And she was known as, one person described her as a real Australian bombshell. Tremendous vitality, flashing eyes, everything she did well. And she, in 1944, she parachuted into a place to act as a liaison between London and the French resistance fighters there.
Wait, so she was going to be a liaison, and she's like, I'll jump out of a plane to get there. That's
Yeah,
cool.
why not?
Wow.
Well, this is
No one was like,
thing.
I'll drive you, miss. Nah. I'm jumping.
But the other thing is, so she jumped out. She got tangled in a tree. Captain
That's like Maggie the Goat level comedy right there. Like she got
Sadie the Goat.
Oh, sorry, Sadie the Goat.
Sadie.
Mag is Gal. What was the other one?
Gallus Mag.
There you go. Sadie the Goat level comedy right there. Caught in a tree.
Yeah, so she's just hanging out in the tree. And the Captain Henry Tardivat came upon her, and this is what he greeted her with. I hope that all the trees in France bear such beautiful fruit this year. To which she replied, "Don't give me that French shit." So her job was basically to get arms and equipment to all of, and also was minding all of the finances for the French resistance fighters. She led the group of 7,500 soldiers. So that's a lot. She led attacks on German installations, and also the local Gestapo. And, she's just amazing, all the stuff that she did. So they fought 22,000 German soldiers, and they caused 1,400 casualties, and they only had 100 themselves. So they were pretty damn good. And that was, at the end of the war, she was awarded, like, the highest honors for, like, I think for France, England, and America. She received the highest honors. After the war, she did marry again. She went back to Australia. She did try 2 times to...
by the way, this whole time I had completely forgotten that she is just a runaway from New Zealand.
She is.
Yeah.
Well, no, from Australia. She was born in
Oh,
New Zealand,
okay.
but she
ran away from Sydney.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay,
moved
okay.
to Sydney when she was younger.
Gotcha.
But so she did go back to Australia after the war, and she did try a couple times to get into politics and to get into that, but she lost both times. And then finally she why are you
All the
laughing?
Australians are like, fuck off. You left the country.
You parachuted to Sydney.
You haven't been here since you were 12.
In 2001, she went back to London, leaving Australia, and she became a resident at the Stafford Hotel in St. James Place. And the reason why she went back there was because this was a place where British and American forces would go during the war. And according to her, quote, this is where she got her first bloody good drink there. So the staff and the managers and everything, they all had her and they loved her and everything. And so they just let her stay there for free. Until later on, she's
just like Zach and Cody or whatever that show is.
she just lived in the hotel.
That's cool.
So, and then she stayed there and she celebrated her 90th birthday there. And then in 2003, she moved to a place that's for disabled ex-service people. And then she stayed there until she died, which was in August 2011, and she was 98 years old.
Wait, 2011?
In 2011, she died. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she was 98.
Oh, I mean, that's great. That means she saw the internet. She saw all the good stuff. Because literally nothing else is coming is going to be that great.
The internet's not cool when you've, like, killed a bunch of Germans and, like, parachuted into
out.
trees. Like, you don't give a shit about AOL.
Avoiding Gestapo.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty long-filled, adventurous
You know
life.
what? I was actually... The reason why I asked what her name was, because I had forgotten it was Nancy. I thought if her name was Bianca, I was like, oh... Rescuers Down Under. That's totally, that's totally White Mouse. That's totally
Dude.
where they got their inspiration
Nice.
from.
I kind of wish her name was Bianca.
Voiced by Zsa Zsa Gabor.
I really wish that's what it was, but it's not.
By the way,
Whatever.
I had no idea she was voiced by Zsa Zsa Gabor, but now that I know, I'm like, oh yeah, that
Oh, you
makes,
didn't know that?
I did not
Yeah.
know that, but makes a lot of sense.
Oh, Bernard.
Bernard was from California. He'd sound like me.
Bernard, voiced by Bob Newhart.
Okay. Yeah.
You really know your voice
Yeah.
actors for
Who
Disney.
who voiced the eagle?
The eagle. Well,
He's a
joking.
seagull, not an eagle.
No.
You're giving him too much.
I mean the
Oh,
golden.
the actual
the
golden-
actual golden eagle.
She's like,
Yeah.
actually, it was an eagle named
in
Sparky.
Rescuers Down Under. He didn't have a voice.
I know. I'm joking.
He screeched.
I know.
That was the
Yeah.
joke. Actually, did you know eagles don't screech? They don't sound like how we think eagles do. They don't
they
sound
sound like-
majestic and
Well,
cool.
maybe the Australian eagles
No.
do.
Well, I'm talking about bald eagles. Bald
Okay,
eagles
yeah, see?
do not sound cool like that piercing America sound. They don't sound like that at all. They like make chicken noises. They sound really fucking stupid. Bald eagles, anyone listening, look up bald eagle sounds. They sound fucking dumb. That's what America wants us. They want you to believe it's like this.
No, but that's actually perfect for America because we all look great, majestic. Everyone wants to come here until
we
we
don't all
open
look
until we
We're
open our
bald.
mouths.
We're bald.
Until we open our mouths.
Yeah.
There you go. That's probably the
America.
reasoning behind it.
Yeah. Actually, when you think about it, whenever they show the bald eagle in like those like propaganda type, videos, whatever, like I'm proud to be an American, like that type of stuff, it is true. Like you hear kind of like the start of like an eagle sound, but usually it's drowned out by the
The
powerful
triumphant music and
guitars
all
and
that.
the-
Yeah.
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 Well, I've got one more story that's short and brief that I can share with you guys. And again, it's about another woman, women's contributions to history, right? So this story starts off. You guys might know this story though, because you guys are all well read. Are you guys familiar with the story of the immortal cells of Henrietta Lacks?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No? Okay.
I are dumb.
So,
Or maybe I do and I just don't remember.
yeah, you might.
I think I've read
it's a
different
popular
pieces
story.
of things.
So the story starts, well, at least the way I'm going to start it, is with Dr. George Guy. In the 1950s, he wanted to grow human cells in a lab in order to conduct medical testing.
Oh,
because
I do know.
You know the story.
Yeah.
Because, you can't do extreme testing on people, obviously. So you want human cells. But the problem is that the human cells don't grow when they're not attached to a person anymore.
A
They
living
die.
person.
A living person, right. They die. But he had a deal with Johns Hopkins University that anytime they get a hold of cancer cells, they will give a sample of it to Dr. Guy for his testing. And of course, they take other samples and give it to other labs and things like that, but they always had one, vial of it or whatever for Dr. Guy. And by the way, at the time, they had no idea, they don't know why human cells don't grow separated from a human being. So he receives a brand new sample on January 29th, 1951. And Dr. Guy gives a sample to his assistant, Mary Kubasek, and she puts the sample in a petri dish and runs the machines and leaves for the day. So Mary comes in the next day and finds that, and by the way, you have to imagine she's been doing this for
long time,
her whole time she's been an assistant. And of course, she runs the machine, leaves the cells in a petri dish, comes back, it's dead the next day. But this time she comes in and she finds that a new batch of cells have grown in that petri dish. In fact, the cells have doubled in size. So she swaps the petri dish, continues the experiment, and every single day for that week, the cells continue to double in size. She's never seen anything like that before. It just continued to grow. So Dr. Guy named these cells HeLa cells, and no one knew why he called it that for 25 years. So instead of making money, though, to his credit, instead of making money from these cells, what he did was he gave them away free to medical labs and hospitals around the world, because now all these
There's
doctors,
a renewable source of
of cells, human cells to test with. There's a renewable source now, and they can just keep growing these cells. In fact, these HeLa cells and being able to test using them were responsible for curing polio, and they're responsible for the advances we've made in reducing and mitigating leukemia, influenza, Parkinson's disease, HIV, and AIDS. We've made breakthroughs because of these HeLa cells.
Actually, AIDS is almost done now. It's they've come up with a really good
A way of mitigating it,
Yeah.
reducing it. 'Cause you can't cure it right now, but you can control it. Yeah.
I think they said recently they made it almost non-transferable. You can't give
that would be the best thing you could do with it.
the way it works is it's for knowing people in committed relationships though. So it's you have it, but your partner doesn't have it, and so your partner has to take a specific medication, and you take something else, and you can't pass it on.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
That's good. Yeah.
Thanks, HeLa cells. That's the start of it.
Yeah,
you know?
it sounds like a brand, by the way, Helicells. It just sounds
Yeah,
like
it
a
does.
hip brand. Anyway, these were the... by the
Sounds
way,
like an ointment.
these-
Helicell. Heal your dry skin with Helicell.
with Shaquille O'Neal as the spokesman. So these cells were actually sent into space to test zero gravity on human cells, and they were the first cells ever to be cloned before we cloned a living animal even.
Dolly.
Dolly.
Good old Dolly.
So, but here's the thing about these cells: they were extremely aggressive and resistant, and they found these cells could sit on a particle of dust and just float through the air. Like, most cells die when they're in a condition like that, like especially dry air like that. But these cells were so resistant and so aggressive and strong, they could survive in these really extreme environments. Yeah, so they can float on particles of dust, and that's a problem because these petri dishes are out. And so sometimes the cells from the HeLa sample would catch on a piece of dust, float up, and into the petri dish of other cells that they were testing that are non-HeLa.
They're getting their HeLa cells and everything.
And the problem is, what HeLa cells do to those other cells is they just completely wipe those cells out and replace them with HeLa cells. Like, HeLa cell, it is a cancer cell basically, so it spreads and just kills all the other cells. But here's the thing: those other ones were cancer cells too. Like, it was a cancer cell. Yeah. So what the thing is, scientists needed a way to genetically test the cells in the petri dish to make sure they were not HeLa cells. Like, they need to be able to tell the difference because it was becoming a problem for their actual testing. So they needed a way to genetically test for HeLa cells. And so that is when they found out where the HeLa cells came from. And we're talking 25 years later, right? If the cells were brought to the lab in 1951, it was like 1975, like mid to late 70s, when they actually found out where the cells came from. So there's a woman named Henrietta Lacks. She's a black woman born in Roanoke, Virginia in 1910, right? She felt, on January 29th, 1951, she felt a knot in her womb, and she felt a lump inside of her. She had cancer. She had a cancer in her womb. And, she went to get some medical attention at Johns Hopkins. And that's when they got samples of her cancer cells, and they gave one of those samples to Dr. Guy. And, of course, from then on, they conducted, you know what happens after that with her cells. They did the testing and all that stuff. What happened to her was they conducted intense procedures to cure her cancer. Some of those procedures were they would give her like massive doses of morphine as a way to stop the cancer.
Feel good.
Also, this one's crazy. They even injected her with 100% alcohol straight into her spine.
Jeez.
Fuck me. Oh my God.
She was in unbelievable agony for the last days of her life. Like,
Jesus
she went
Imagine.
she went in January, and she stayed in the hospital until October 4th when she died. Like, she never left that hospital when she went in, and she was in extreme agony for the entire time she was there.
Oh man.
But the thing is, even though she died, her cells lived on. Medical science, up until even the 70s, until maybe like the 80s, really, medical science never acknowledged or even repaid the Lacks for their contribution to science. Like her family lived in poverty, even though her mother, made some people rich, contributed to science, like
saved God knows how many lives.
How many lives did her mother save? And her family didn't know anything. All they knew was she was in the hospital and she died. That's it. Here's an interesting little addendum to this story. Deborah Lacks, right? Her youngest daughter was 15 months old when Henrietta died, so she never really knew her mother. And she really, as the only child who never knew her mother, she's always curious. Like, she'd ask questions like, did her mom breastfeed her? Like, things like that. She just wants to know about her mom. So she received a call from scientists in the late 70s wanting a sample of her DNA in order to test the HeLa cells to find out. And the thing is, they didn't explain anything to her. Like, she had no idea what's going on. And that was the first time anybody's brought her mother in, decades. So her family had no idea what was going on. So she started researching this whole thing about the HeLa cells and this whole situation. Right. And then that's when she found out about, there's these HeLa cells, and then she found out HeLa cells were cloned, and that, the HeLa cells were from her mother. In fact, Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah, right.
So But here's the thing, though. She is not like a scientist or anything like that. And the scientist didn't tell her anything. So when she read that HeLa cells were cloned and they were everywhere, all over the world, thousands of them, batches, she was just like, oh my God, what if I see my mother? Like, she thought her mother was cloned, and her mother was just walking around the streets.
Thousands of copies of her mom.
Right. So she was like, oh my gosh, like she might be able to meet her mom. Like, she's never met her mother. But then later, she discovered this whole thing. Okay, no, it was her cells that were cloned. And listen, when I say later, I mean like years later. Like, for like years,
I
she
can
thought
imagine,
her mother
though,
was
she must have
cloned.
been kind of freaked out. I would have been freaked out if I thought about that.
I mean, she actually wondered, like, will her mother, like, remember her? Like, things like that. Like, she didn't know. So for years, she didn't know. But she eventually found out, okay, no, it was her cells that were cloned. So then she thought to herself, like, it's horrible to her that her mother's cells were being tested and experimented on. Because she thought to herself, how can her mother ever rest? You know, how can her mother ever rest if she's being tested on? Things like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, she really, like, was unhappy about that whole scenario, and she didn't really like that whole situation.
Yeah.
What an episode.
You were doing all right for a while there.
So, eventually, though, I mean, the whole thing, she was unhappy about that, but eventually, one scientist at a lab did reach out to her, brought her to the lab so she can finally see examples of the HeLa cells.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was actually given the chance to hold the HeLa cells in her hands and like see it through a microscope and see, you know, the intensity of how, you know, swirling and like, you know, aggressive the cells were. Like it was life
cool, I mean.
in that, you know, vial, you know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like some consolation that she got, you know, being able to like hold her mother's cells in her hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the HeLa cells are still used to this day, of course.
Did they ever like, oh, hey, by the way, thanks for all your contributions to science. Here's some fucking money.
No.
Or
I mean, like,
something.
The medical community, as far as I know, didn't do anything for them, but there is like some like foundations that were formed to raise funds for Henrietta's great-grandchildren to go to college, like a college fund, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, something should have happened
but I mean,
like that.
I don't think this was something that like the medical community or the scientists were like, let's make a fund for them. I think it was just like private sort of a thing.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, in death, Henrietta Lacks contribute. I actually her tombstone. Oh my gosh, I wish I actually let me find that really quick. Oh, actually, let me give you some figures. This is actually really relevant. You know how much HeLa cells they cloned or they incubated? 50 million metric tons. Jeez. Enough to wrap around the world 3 times.
Yikes.
Yeah, a lot. And hold on, let me check
There's
Henrietta
a lot
Lacks.
of Henrietta.
Yeah. Well, it's more. I mean, it's more than her body.
Henrietta
ever
was not lacking.
Huh.
So let me see. I'm trying to see what Henrietta Lacks' tombstone says. It says Henrietta Lacks, and her years that she was alive, in loving memory of a phenomenal woman, wife and mother who touched the lives of many. Here lies Henrietta HeLa. Her immortal cells will continue to help mankind forever.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right, guys. So
thanks, ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, actually, all these women contributed in their own way. You've got a woman fighting against the Nazis. You've got a woman whose face is the face of resuscitation. A woman whose cells are saving lives.
You have an entrepreneur.
And a woman
who 1800s New York.
Who headbutted
her way into better society.
Everyone else. She made gin.
A woman who gave us some laughs for an evening.
Do you know if her brand of gin is still being made today?
No, I do not.
Should maybe find that out. See if it's still around, like Bombay gin or something. I don't know.
The Grey Goat. The goat whiskey. All right. Well, do you guys have anything you want to signal boost or anything you want to shout out?
Nope.
To? By the way, actually, one thing I want to mention really quick. I mean, I want to mention this earlier, but I thought it was really funny. Like when I came into this station, I see the tabs are open from the previous show, and I thought they were kind of funny.
Too.
You've got
a lot of tabs open.
Yeah, you got transgender hatred. No, 7 ways anger is ruining your health. Definitions of hatred, anger management. A lot of anger management stuff is being
Well, I think it was, they were talking about something like that on the last show. Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, you got anything to
Cool.
signal boost, Ryan?
I do not.
Okay. My signal boost is
Don't do PRSSA.
in PRSS in 2 weeks. Not next Monday, but the following Monday, we will have a meeting.
Wow.
A meeting.
Dude, just stop.
On
We're
the
gonna
16th,
do some stuff.
On the
with some
16th, we have a
things.
fundraiser, so please come out to that. On April 9th, I believe, we have elections, so please come out to that.
To go
No
vote
one-
for some people
Please,
and some things.
someone go vote him out of office because
I will
he's
be voted
really bad at
on.
this.
Yeah. All right, so
Just
what are we
It's on the phone.
playing? Yeah, I know it. I know it is. I know.
Sure you did. Do
Uh,
you remember what you're doing?
yeah, I do.
Oh,
So
he
we've
does.
got the song is Third Prototype by Get In, right? Or is it Get In by Third Prototype?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, it's
It's Get In.
it's
One of those combinations.
It's the third prototype of Get In. No, this is an actual person who made this thing. So the artist is third prototype.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on today's episode, guys. We will see you next
Don't forget
week.
not to go to work tomorrow if you can afford
Yeah,
that.
and wear
ladies.
red.
Or
Wear red.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Ryan and Noosh Are Dead is made possible thanks to KDHR, the student-operated radio station of California State University, Dominguez Hills. For more information about KDHR, please visit www.kdhr.net. The intro song for this show is Space Ace by Blind. This music is made available thanks to Overclocked Remix. For more information, please visit ocremix.org.